All right, so I'm David Driscoll, and I'm here with old classmate and friend Evan LaRuffa. Evan, how are you?
I'm great, dude. Great to be here with you. I'm excited to have this conversation.
Yeah, well, when I heard about the opportunity to talk about the arts, I thought of you. We had reconnected, and you're doing some amazing stuff. First of all, just tell me a little bit about your history as an artist and kind of what you've been doing, what kind of art you like to do, and how you got to where you're at now.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting because I think for me, the art form that I felt most fluent in as a young person or like early on was writing. It
Mm.
was really like with words. I've since, written poetry and done editorial, kind of written in every single form. But yeah, I always just kind of felt, yeah, like the pen was my first paintbrush, if you will, and I always just kind of started writing. And yeah, I think like over the years, as I've worked in nonprofits, launched my own nonprofit, I Paint My Mind, um, and developed programs and curriculum and interacted with tons of awesome artists over the years, really as more of a curator and organizer. It's gotten me really excited and kind of coming back to art in different ways, kind of as a result of what I've been doing with I Paint My Mind. So yeah, a lot of like what I'm doing right now, which we talked about the other day, was kind of like uh, kind of similar vein of photographic work that you and I are kind of doing. And yeah, as of late, this kind of photo fine art, where I'm kind of finding interesting textural vignettes and then really messing with them in post. And getting them to look really, really gnarly and colorful and fun. That's been the kind of latest body of work that
Yeah.
I've been working on. But
We
but
love
yeah,
in color.
yes, yes, kind of across the board.
I remember you saying that you initially wanted to study journalism. And so you went to college and going to study journalism and kind of activism through
Right.
that. And then things shifted.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, as you know, we played sports together, and I was going to continue playing soccer, going to college. Got hurt second day of tryouts, and that didn't end up happening. But yeah, I mean, I think how that kind of tied into journalism. Yeah, I went to college thinking I was going to do journalism and soccer, and then like neither one of those things happened.
Mm.
The journalism piece was more because and it's interesting. Maybe I should have known more about journalism to start off. But again, back to the writing piece, right? Like I was excited to write because I had a point of view, not because I was like trying to deaden my point of view and pretend that I was somehow doing this unbiased thing that we've gotten into this trap in in our media, right? But
Mm.
yeah, so in any case, just like I remember being in journalism 101, and just kind of like the premise of being unbiased, and I was like, yeah, I'm not in the right class right now. you
Did you
and
physically get
so
up and leave the classroom at one point, or was it
I
just end of the
do
semester?
think it was like a couple classes in, and I was like, yeah, no, and I just like walked out and like went to change my schedule.
Yeah, because just from knowing you and reconnecting with you, I know you're not one to tolerate kind of nonsense or perhaps the inappropriate path for too long.
Yeah, no, I think we even like mentioned that recently, right? When we chatted, like it was I think it's like I guess I'm just confident in my own kind of assessment of things, right? So if I'm in a class in like journalism 101 and 30 people are like, yeah, this is great, and I happen to think like, no, not a fit for me, I'll be pretty like confident or like resolved in that. And um not to like in any kind of naysayer kind of way, I think just being like kind of clear
Mm.
at certain points in like how I see myself contributing.
Absolutely. Can you tell me a little bit about, first of all, the framework for I Paint My Mind, and then maybe quickly how you got into and grew this nonprofit organization?
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, I Paint My Mind is a kind of cool story of like crazy, fun side projects turned into full-time everything project. But yeah, I mean, really what it was is I started a blog in 2009 when everybody else started a blog. And was just like curating a lot and writing about a lot of artists. Like I've always been that person who would tell you about the latest book, poem, painting, print, museum experience, concert, record that you should check out, right? And so I think, yeah, the writing piece and the curator piece has always kind of, I think, been inherent in me, and this kind of like appreciation of beauty. I'm the kind of dude that like cries at great films, and like we'll stop for a while to look at the mural underneath the underpass, right? So like, yeah, just being like, yeah, that appreciation of beauty, I think, was big in kind of I Paint My Mind's kind of genesis. But really, what I Paint My Mind came to be was this kind of creative, curatorial content thing that I was doing, and then I kind of mixed that with experience that I had in the nonprofit sector and thinking about kind of nonprofit sustainability, and also really valuing artists so that artists can make careers out of their art, right? So yeah, at I Paint My Mind, we're a 501c3 nonprofit arts organization based in Chicago, and the mission is to connect people through the power of art. So what we talk about at I Paint My Mind is our wheel of impact. What we do is we work with artists directly, usually hiring them for projects or purchasing their prints. Then we engage businesses through our services. So we have art rental services, custom mural services that we offer corporate clients like Adidas, DocuSign, LinkedIn are some really great companies that we've worked with in the past. And basically, as a nonprofit, these mission-aligned services of connecting people through the power of art allow us to then fund a bunch of free and low-cost art programs in local schools. So, right, and I mean that's like, I think for us, it's kind of about solving a few problems at one time, right? I think a lot of times as a nonprofit, you're definitely kind of thinking about like one problem that you're solving, right? Like cancer, hunger, right? Like health access. It's usually kind of very pointed. I mean, we're really kind of proud of this wheel of impact where we're solving a few things at once, right? As far as supporting artists, helping them make their careers viable, purchasing their art, being patrons of the artists that we support, engaging cool businesses so that they're engaged in the value. I think like art is part of companies and workplaces and workspaces is definitely increasing, right? I think
Have
especially
you seen
in these
a lot of willingness?
Yeah, I mean, a ton. I mean, I think part of it is like we talk about get art, give back, right? So that when we support artists, work with businesses, and give back to companies, like it's this wheel, and that it's always both things. You're always getting art, and you're always giving back, kind of no matter how you're participating, right? Because you're helping us turn that wheel. But yeah, I mean, I think absolutely, like companies are every day, I think, looking for cooler and more creative ways of like bringing their company together. And it's funny because art is the obvious way to do that, right? I think like even for people who might work in an office downtown, I think the reality is that most of us, even if we don't think of ourselves as like even artists or like lovers of art, even we're usually like we're usually working a lot to save money to spend it on cultural or artistic experiences.
Absolutely.
Right? Like back to that list that I just like quoted, right? Like films, concerts, prints, posters, writing, like
yeah. End of the day, that's where we're going.
Yeah.
So I saw recently you guys did this amazing mural at the old post office building in Chicago, which had been they moved out of it. It had been renovated, abandoned, whatever, for like 15, 20 years almost.
Yeah, I think it was vacated for 19 years. Yeah. So for anyone not in Chicago, the old post office building is this massive facility that kind of straddled the
Like
Eisenhower Expressway.
Yeah, like the west edge of downtown is you like go under this building to get into the loop.
Correct. Right. Exactly. So it's there, and it was like weird because like for 19, almost 20 years, it kind of it just looked bizarre. It was like this big, forgotten, dilapidated, like broken down windows.
Still
like,
impressive structure.
I mean, you had to drive through it for about you have to drive through it for like maybe 400 or 500 yards, right? So yeah, you're not missing it. But anyway, yeah. So the building wasn't in use, and then it's been renovated. Different companies have moved in, and one of the companies that moved in is PepsiCo. And so yeah, Pepsi reached out to us about our custom mural services. They have an incredible space that they're building out. They moved from another office space that they had in the West Loop. And yeah, I think it's just like a perfect example of how companies are looking for art to engage their employees, like reflect the communities that they're a part of, and also like do something impressive, right? The mural that we did for them was with two great local artists, Sam Kirk and Ruben Aguirre. And yeah, it's an 11 by 54 foot mural. And the kind of theme is Chicago's multicultural identity. So we worked with the team at Pepsi to kind of represent their different employee groups and then have the artists knock out a really cool interpretation of that.
Yeah, and I've seen it from your Instagram. So IPaintMyMind, that's the handle on Instagram, right?
Yes, indeed. Yeah, IPaintMyMind on Instagram, everywhere else, definitely. Yeah, we posted a couple videos recently, like a big time lapse of that big mural process, which is a fun one. Yeah.
So I want to ask you a little bit more about kind of the other half of it, or the other third of it, which is in the schools, the activism, and then especially sustainability, because I thought that was such an inspiring thing, especially for artists who may not always have a business background.
Sure.
How sustainability works for you.
Totally. So it's interesting because I guess, so two pieces, like I guess the one that you mentioned, the community program. So like the work that we do in schools, like the give back, right? After we work with artists and engage businesses, the giving back is, a range of art programs that we deliver to local schools. So the main bulk of that is something we call shared walls, which is where we offer a 12 to 20 piece art gallery installed in the hallways of a school. We provide a full visual art curriculum, both in English and Spanish, for every educator in the school to use to engage the kids in the exhibition. And then we also bring artists into the school to do a workshop. So it's kind of like those three pieces are the Shared Walls program. So we have 23 Chicago public schools that are participating in that. And yeah, that's the whole, I think, my mom was a public school teacher for a bunch of years. I went to an incredible public school where art and activism was just embedded into the community, right? And so, yeah, what we're really trying to do is to create more of these moments where kids are just in their schools, where the art is brought to them instead of saying you have to come to Michigan Avenue to see art. Right. Recontextualizing it and providing a bit of like a pathway to kind of create a container for that experience. So it's about kids having their minds blown and maybe thinking about what they could make as well, right?
Do you see those moments? Do you get little moments when you're like, oh yeah, that one really took, or that one really sparked something?
Totally. I mean, like the thing is, a lot of our programs are really meant to support the educators who are already in the classroom. So a lot of times we're hearing about like an incredible quote or like art is sent to us that a kid made from like one of the schools that we're working with, right? But at the same time, when we like go in and do the workshops, there's absolutely been incredible moments. I think the one that always comes to mind is Sam Kirk, who has been who worked on that Pepsi mural. She's done a lot of really incredible projects. She's been a board member at IPaintMyMind and now is an impact advisor. But she went in and did a mini mural with a bunch of first graders where like she unrolled this big white paper where she had kind of outlined a design. And then all the kids got their markers and crayons and stuff and got to like throw down and make a mural with Sam. And one of the little girls said, she looks like me, right? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Even just like another quote around like, oh, like she lives in the same neighborhood that my cousin lives in, right? Mm-hmm. Like just that, like Sam's a real person. She's a living artist. She's not like part of a history book. That she's Latina, that she looks like the kids in the schools that we work with, right? I think having that experience be like relevant and contextual is also a big part of it. So all the art that we put in these schools is our prints, screen prints, and things like that. Not a lot of highfalutin stuff. Like, I definitely love going into all the fine art museums myself, but I think like a big part of what we're trying to do through I Paint My Mind is like make it accessible, like knock down the snootiness in the art world. I think it keeps really a lot of people out, and especially those of us who kind of like are educated in the arts or like have learned technique and have studied this and kind of are discerning about that stuff. I think it's also important that we not paint ourselves into a corner. That just worked out. It just worked out. I
love it.
No, but really, like, I think like we're all like, oh, we're open-minded, we're creative, we want to make stuff, but then you have to make it the way we say. No, like, I think we need to take it easy, and I think that extends to how we present it, where we present it, and creating programs like this that make it accessible to folks so they actually care about it and realize that it's important, right?
Absolutely. And that reminds me of maybe the last thing because of time, but the habits that we get into in terms of how we value art, how we fund it, how we support it, how we ask for help, where we're willing to go with it as an organization. Like those also, I think you're breaking some barriers and finding some new ways to hold power.
For sure. And I mean, I think really what that has to do with, whether as a nonprofit or an artist, means like understanding how we can transmit value, right? And like being clear, like who we serve. I think as an artist, that just means like caring for the people who show love and appreciate you and obviously like love what you're doing, right? I think, it's not the like 1,000 real fans. Like you might just need like 25, right? But like, I think even if we're artists, like the relationships and the connection is huge, and that's how you sell anything, right? Yeah. So I mean, I think there's definitely more to learn, kind of in the nonprofit sector and as artists, about how to kind of just like tighten up our business operations if it is that we're trying to make our art a business.
And it sounds like knowing your own value and really being confident in that value and those exchanges is a big part of that. Yeah,
and I mean, I think that's a process that you learn, right? For sure. But yeah, I think also like taking the time to understand that like learning how to run your art business intelligently isn't whack. It's good. It's fantastic. It means you can actually do the art that you want to do, right?
More people are going to see the art, and eventually
for sure,
help other artists.
Totally. And I mean, I think that's where it kind of just comes down to like, why are we doing it, right? Some folks just want to make and kind of express themselves and aren't interested. Like, it's really just an expression thing, and it's not necessarily like a dialogue or about sharing. But like when we are speaking to the ways in which artists and nonprofits can sharpen their blades when it comes to just efficient and smart business practices, I mean, I think there's so much more room to make an impact. And quite frankly, I also think at the same time, like I think artists should get a lot more credit than they do. I think the starving artist thing is kind of like a little bit played out as a trope. Like, in fact, like most of the entrepreneurs that I know that are like doing their own thing are either like intensely creative or are straight up artists, So I mean, I see art and business being pretty intertwined. Yeah,
and then social media and everything online gives us so many more options.
Definitely. And I mean, I think sometimes that feels like a hamster wheel to folks, and like I totally get that. But again, I think it's about just kind of like figuring out your lane, like what you're trying to do, and figuring out like what fits for you.
All right. Last thing I want to ask you is maybe a little bit open-ended, but what do you hope to see more of or create more of through I Paint My Mind, or just in general arts education, arts supporting artists in general? What do you want to see more of in the next few years?
Wow, that's interesting. That's a great question. Honestly, I've felt like just kind of COVID and like all constraints typically kind of bring about cool solutions. Like I've been kind of like optimistic, I guess, kind of like buffering my optimism because I feel like there's going to be a lot of great art and like cool solutions coming out of the constraints that we've all been living with. I mean, I think to me that means like an evolution in terms of delivery, like mediums, subject matter, like all of this, right? Like what's happening socially has definitely affected the landscape of art for the last 18 months, like intensely, right? In a way that has seen an incredible amount of really important like socio-political work made. But I also think like the constraint of this new world of recording podcasts from our bedrooms, right? Like at least I'm in my bedroom, right? Like it's just been interesting to even see Toby Nwigwe, this Nigerian American rapper from Houston, rented out an incredible venue in Houston and then did this like global stream concert that was proper. It was so dope. He's one of these artists that I think has kind of met the moment with incredible like spirit and like timeliness and like intuition. I mean, he's a rapper, but like everything about what he puts out and creates has a palette and a vibe and a feel. And yeah, I mean, I think like, yeah, I think these constraints will get people thinking even further outside the box, and people like that who really have incredible visions will be able to connect with folks because, you know, you get, like you said, Instagram video and then like 2 million people watch it and then he's performing with the Roots, right? So like,
I love it.
You know,
I mean,
yeah,
you just got me thinking like every time there's a new platform, new technology, there's a learning curve where you figure out how to present there and how to maximize it and how to play with it. And nobody really knows until we do it.
Definitely. And like, honestly, I think like, you know, it's all wrapped up in an app and some like goofy little thumbnail and like it's on our phones and it feels very 2021. But like every single time one of these social media platforms, TikTok, whatever it is, comes out, becomes a new, it's a publisher. It's a new printing press. It's got a new spec and like people learn how to publish. Like that's like all it really is. And so like, yeah, maybe like little like reels on TikTok isn't your thing. It makes you dizzy. So like you do something else, you know?
Right. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. All right, man. So Evan Ruffa, I Paint My Mind out of Chicago. Great talking with you. I think it's a lot of interesting things, especially for artists who may not have dove in yet to quite as much public action and nonprofit work as you have.
Right on. It was great to be here, Dave. Thanks for having me.
All right. Talk to you later.
Peace.